This episode of The Construction Record is brought to you by the Greater Toronto Sewer and Water Main Contractors Association. Clean water, our goal, our future.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Construction Record Podcast. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey, and with me I have...
Hi, I'm John Wall with Public Architecture and Communication. I'm a principal at Public and very delighted to be here.
And what we're talking about today is the Vienna House project and a collaboration between Vancouver and Vienna to sort of learn different architectural and other practices between the two cities and what one can give to the other. So, John, maybe we could start with you explaining how your firm got involved in this whole thing.
Yeah, it's a very traditional process. The city of Vancouver issued a request for proposals, and I think they had about over 20 firms submit proposals. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but they selected our firm as being the best all around, and you know we're pleased. You know, it's a great project. We're really interested to be on board. So very traditional process, and we're in early days. So we're just getting started on conceptual design, working with our client group, and it's there's many stakeholders. There's BC Housing, there's Vaha with City of Vancouver, there's More Than a Roof, which will be the operator of the facility when it's built. And we're working with that stakeholder group to move the project forward.
And maybe you could describe, just from that list of stakeholders, I can tell it's some affordable housing is a component, but maybe you could explain what the intent of the structure is going to be.
Yeah, so the intent is to deliver affordable housing, which I think everyone knows is a significant goal all across Canada. And the idea is also to deliver a project that addresses climate change in a meaningful way. So the project is targeted to be what they're calling near net zero. So basically, it's a project that will have very little greenhouse gas emissions. And at our current stage, what we're proposing to do is a passive house project. So passive house is an international standard, which has been in Europe for quite a while, and it's relatively new to North America. And there's a lot of interest in it because basically it's about designing a very well insulated building that uses very little energy to maintain heating and cooling.
And you mentioned passive house. It's been pioneered in Europe. It's happening here as well. What were some of the other practices and just sort of collaborative ideas that were going back and forth between Vancouver and Vienna to sort of bring this project to fruition?
Yeah, so the other ideas that we're learning from the Europeans is their approach to prefabrication. So, you know, I think everyone recognizes in BC that wood construction is ultimately very sustainable. It has lower embodied greenhouse gas emissions than a comparable concrete or steel structure. It's a renewable resource, and if the forests are sustainably harvested, you know, it can go on for many, many generations. The Europeans have done this, so they're both conserving their forest, but also using their forest as a resource to produce renewable engineered wood products. And they're using those engineered wood products in very innovative ways to make affordable housing both more durable and more flexible and faster to build. So I think everyone recognizes in the construction market, if you can shave 6 months off construction, well, you're saving significant dollars in terms of financing and just overall project cost. And so, you know, one of the goals for the project is to use prefabrication techniques to expedite the construction process, and also, just make things more standard so that when you're building the building, there's fewer changes in plane, fewer corners, fewer places where, frankly, you lose energy or you have buildings that leak. So if you can design a simpler, more regular structure, you'll have fewer problems, and you'll have a more durable building that just, lasts generations. The other thing we've talked about is having a structure and a building that is, let's say, not only more durable, but withstands crises like heat waves or in flood events or earthquakes. So if you have a structure that is stronger, more structurally sound, and has, carefully considered mechanical, electrical services, and there's a large earthquake event, ideally people can shelter in place, that they don't have to abandon their home. And passive house really helps in that regard. You look at what happened in Texas, where they lost power for 5 days in the winter, and their buildings started falling apart. Their homes, people's ceilings in their homes were falling apart because pipes were bursting. With a passive house building, because it retains its heat, and basically the home can stay warm because of your own body heat keeps your house warm, keeps your apartment warm. You can, the old adage is, you can heat a passive house home with a hairdryer, essentially. So it retains its heat, and you don't have problems with pipes bursting and flooding and issues like that. So it's really about designing not only for energy conservation, but to have a more durable building that can survive issues like climate change, like earthquakes, like other catastrophes, and make a more durable, resilient city, which frankly is just better for the community as a whole. It reduces the amount of money. If you have a building that's going to last 50 years or 75 or 100 years, that's better than a lot of buildings that need to be almost completely rebuilt after 20 or 25 years.
An article written by our staff writer, Russell Hickson, also mentioned Vienna experts presented projects where they had bathroom units sort of stacked one on top of the other, so you could sort of combine the plumbing into one unit, for lack of a better term, or take into account that people are going to be doing less parking, and certainly after COVID, a lot less parking. So that kind of works into the design. Was that sort of thing that you sort of worked into this as well?
Yes, we are looking at those things. So we take the same approach about stacking units. So from the ground to the top floor, we try to replicate the same unit. And that means that bathrooms and kitchens line up. So we don't, from floor to floor, everything stacks up vertically. So that means you have simple vertical runs for your mechanical and your electrical services. And if you do have a flood, or if you do have a pipe that bursts, it's localized. You don't have a burst pipe from a bathroom over top of someone's bedroom, for example. It's over there, it's over the bathroom below. So yes, we are looking at those types of construction efficiencies that I think, again, reduce costs and will speed up construction. So, you do see the Europeans taking a kind of a very pragmatic approach to building. They're also using mass timber. They're using glulam beams and CLT because some of those elements can be prefabricated in a factory. You can have exterior wall panels where the windows, the insulation, and the cladding is pretty much attached, and then those panels get flown in and dropped into place. So they're looking at ways, again, to make construction more straightforward, but also a better product, more durable, better finishes, more robust. So getting more for your dollar.
I also, in the article, was mentioned that the site is I would say a strange shape, but it's not a usual shape. It's not a conventional shape. It's not like a square lot. And also it's near a SkyTrain, so you have to take that into account as you design to mitigate sound.
Yes, so that we've had many discussions to date on how to deal with the sound issue with the SkyTrain. And one of the challenges is the SkyTrain runs basically, I think, 5 in the morning till 2 at night or something like that. It's a very long. It runs for a very long period of time. And one of the requirements for Passive House is that you are able to open your window to expel heat that's built up during the day. And if you don't have that opportunity to open up your window at night to kind of to cool your unit, you can get problems with overheating. So, the issue is that if you have a unit that's facing SkyTrain and it's noisy and you keep your windows closed, you can get overheating. So that's something we're talking about with our Passive House and mechanical consultants at Integral. And we're currently developing different strategies on how we would address that. And there's a couple different approaches. There's obviously one is just proceeding with mechanical cooling. The other would be to develop almost like a winter garden on the north side where the tracks are, so that you have a somewhat enclosed balcony that acts as a sound buffer, where you could open a window into your winter garden and then get some free cooling through the exterior, but also getting a sound buffer.
Okay, and this is a collaboration between Vienna and Vancouver, and that we're clearly learning a lot from them. But what do you think they're going to learn from us? What are our leading characteristics that they could pick up on?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think realistically, in Vienna, they build a lot of social affordable housing, and they've been doing it for years. So, to be frank, they're farther ahead than we are, and they're farther ahead in the use of engineered wood products in construction. So what they might learn from us is, I think our approach to construction and to Passive House is a little simpler. We still use a lot of stick-built construction, so they might look at that. To be honest, I'm struggling a bit because I think they really are the leaders, and so they might look to our process, how we deliver projects, how we do civic engagement, how we work with our stakeholder groups. There may be lessons learned, or just even interest. How are things done differently? How are engineers and architects hired? How does the city review and approve the projects? Some things we do might be better, and some things they might do are better. So I think it may be more the regulatory and regulatory process that might be different. So, and I think what's very generous is that they've really opened up and showed us the things they've learned, and I think everyone acknowledges that they're more advanced than we are. So it's definitely not a completely equal exchange, but I think that often happens. They've been very generous and sharing all their ideas, and we've been sharing our ideas, and they've been very, I guess the word is supportive, or I think they maybe look back and say that's where we were 10 years ago, and they can share ideas.
Okay, and finally, in our green room discussion before we started recording, you mentioned that this is the preliminary stage of this project, and in 3 or 4 months you'll have more to talk about. Obviously, you can't give me some real specifics there, but what in general terms, 3 to 4 months down the line, what should we be seeing with this project?
Yeah, it's a good question, because we're still working with our ownership group to decide on the building typology. So there's still a question about what the typology is, and that will be decided hopefully in the near future. And once we have that direction, we'll be able to move forward quite quickly with the form and character of the project. So, unfortunately, we don't have any clear ideas about what the project will look like until we get there. It's a process. And
of course.
So I think as an architectural practice, we try to be very, we try to work with our stakeholders and ownership group and collaborate and come up with solutions that work for them. So we're not bringing strong ideas to the table. We're bringing more of a process by which they participate and we come to a shared solution.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. And we look forward to hearing more about the project a few months from now.
Yeah, happy to share. And we're, as I said at the beginning, we're super excited to work on this project. There's many interesting aspects about it, from sustainability, from manufacturing, and I think the other point is that the ownership group is also very clear that they want this project to be a precedent for future social housing development. So hopefully there'll be lessons learned that we will be able to share with the community and help build more sustainable, more economical, and more socially sustainable housing.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
This episode of The Construction Record is brought to you by the Ontario Sewer and Water Main Construction Association. Clean water is everybody's business.